Morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Home stretch, huh?
Yeah.
Did you get to do anything fun on the weekend?
No, I worked.
Oh, wow.
Got
What was
holiday
that?
pay. How about you?
Oh, what did I do? uh, I did a lot of yard work. I finished a fence that I had the unfinished side of a fence with a neighbor facing my yard.
Hmm.
And so before all this shut down, I was buying boards, painting them, and putting them on the unfinished side. But then I ran out of boards and paint, and I didn't want to go to the store. So I finally went to Home Depot on Saturday morning. I went Friday and there was a line. And so I went Saturday morning early and there was no line. So
That's good.
yeah. I painted another fence yesterday. Got some exercise. It's good stuff. My my surf buddy in Cardiff had his 67th birthday and I blew it. He sent me like 5 hints and I missed them all.
Didn't pick up on it.
No, I didn't. So I went and bought, I know he likes Burgundy wine, so I went to one of my a local wine store and told them what I wanted to spend, and I bought him a bottle of wine and brought it up there yesterday after
That's
I gave it to him after we surfed. That was nice. It almost felt normal. We had coffee at a regular place. Well, I don't know. I guess we're still early. I read your exam. It was great.
Thanks.
I haven't read everybody else's, so I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, because I got an announcement saying like it had been graded, but then it doesn't show the grade on Canvas because it says you're still working.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still learning what Canvas shows and doesn't show. Like I've figured out in my other classes that whenever I import content, it for some reason it automatically publishes it, which is not good.
Yeah.
So um yeah, working on that actually. I have to write the final exam in general chemistry, which is those exams take a lot longer than our exams to write.
Yeah. Are they doing the same kind of format, like essay questions or?
No, because I couldn't handle grading that many exams in that style. So they wind up being like 30 multiple choice. And because I know a lot of students know each other, that means writing 90 multiple choice
Oh
that
wow.
it randomly select. Yeah, the first online exam I wrote for them it took me almost 12 hours to write because I was learning how to do the question bank and all that kind of stuff at the same time.
Yeah. My friend was telling me he had um one of his professors, he basically made it like impossible to cheat like on the multiple choice because he didn't have enough time, because like there were
Yeah.
multiple choice questions but the answers he had like 20 answers to choose from. So
20.
yeah, because it was like vocabulary definitions for an anatomy class, so it's like
Oh, wow.
you had to pick like the right um like tendons and like nerves that made up something. So
Wow.
I mean, I'd rather not have something like that, but I guess it's one way to make sure that no one's cheating off each other.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had to limit time on theirs for that reason. I think with these style exams, I get a sense of what people really understand, right? Because it's more essay and proper language really illustrates if someone
Yeah,
understands the details of things, and then if they don't understand it, there's less detail. So I don't have to worry about that so much in this class. And I think the aim of the exam is partially to have you guys spend more time thinking about the material. um, Whereas in general chemistry, it's much more challenging to prevent academic dishonesty because so much of it is available on the web. And
Yeah.
so I do use time as a little bit of a factor. It's hard, right? Because I don't want it to
Yeah.
go only to the fast people, but if there's too much time, there's just too much temptation,
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know how he did it, but I had one professor and it was like you couldn't find any answers for like any of his stuff anywhere. Like I don't know
Wow.
how he like policed everything like that well, but like I guess there's some way to do it.
Yeah. Well, they say, reword them um, and there's value in that, except for when you have students that have English as a second language, that's an additional hurdle
Yeah, that's true.
potentially. So you got to be careful with that. Let's see. So it's 9:30. Looks like it's going to be the regulars. So final exam on Thursday, and I want to have the time frame be a little bit shorter, just because they only give us 5 business days to get our grades
Very
in,
good. Yeah.
and I've got a bit to do. So for sure, there's a question on buffers, and if you want to go over, if you have homework questions, we can do one there. Question on peptides. I did put in a purification table. I kind of like those.
Okay.
um, and then some questions on protein folding and enzyme function. Mostly broad themes or things that relate to news. A question on nucleic acids. And I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to write about the immune response, but there'll for sure be, because there's so much of that in the news right now about the immune response. And then I literally have 2 more questions to write, and I'm sort of thinking about what I want to do. I'm trying to draw links between things across the semester, like something that we learn now that is built on a tool or a foundation from the beginning of the class.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the exam.
That's good.
Yeah, I have to curve my enthusiasm. I can get carried away, but I don't think I've gotten carried away. I think it's actually a thoughtful exam that it might force you to think about things a little bit more in a different way, and then
Okay. That's
learn
probably good.
from it. Yeah, well, we'll hope. I mean, you're more challenging to find new ways to think about things, but and I mean, typically a final for a class like this, if it's in class, I would repeat questions that were not answered that successfully during the course of the semester. But since it's open book and open everything, then you would just be copying my notes or the answer key. So I couldn't approach it that way.
Yeah. What kind of questions will there be about peptides?
Um, Kind of, I'm focused on structural and chemical properties.
Okay.
Acid base, positive, negative charge.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Like the figuring out like the net charge of molecules and stuff. Was that on exam one? I can't remember that far.
We did. Yeah, we had
Yeah.
something like
Okay.
that. Yeah. Bit more drawing because in the format of an in-class exam, I have to account for the time, right? And
Yeah.
so, but now we have more time and I can force you to draw stuff more.
Actually, I think it's helpful. It's a lot better to understand like the molecule shapes and interactions when you have to draw them out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just hard and I definitely, if I get to teach this class again, I'm definitely going to force the memorization and drawing of amino acids, because they come up so much in the rest of the class. And if you don't know to recognize them, part of
Yeah.
the material is lost, or it's just an extra hurdle to understanding what you're looking at.
Yeah. It's also, well, not really related to the class, but it's super helpful for most people taking it or trying to do like nursing or pre-med stuff, and you need to know that stuff for
You
a lot
do?
of the tests. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. You have to know the amino acids?
Yeah. So you at least need to know like all the charges and like different names for them
Okay.
and what type they are, like so non-polar, polar and stuff. And it is really helpful to actually know the side chains on them, because like
Yeah.
the MCAT questions are a lot of like, what happens if this amino acid is like taken out? Like what is like the best replacement for it?
Hmm.
Or what will happen if we change like this with this? Like,
Okay, that's good to know. I don't know. I mean, I know what's on the MCAT, but I don't know what's on stuff for the nursing programs. Um, yeah, I would do that again. Maybe have an in-class quiz on it.
it's definitely helpful when
Yeah.
this
Well,
is
what
when you're not forced to remember it. Everything else builds on it.
in like bite-sized steps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was trying to follow Dr. Bauer's format as much as possible. I figured I'd give it a try, but it's funny. It's just like, you know, it's almost like hardwired in me to teach it a different way.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a buffer problem?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be good to review.
Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can pull up a homework question. Okay. Okay, so let's see. I think I'm gonna share the camera.
Okay.
Okay, there's that. Let me bring up on my screen the question. Ooh. Okay, so here's one that says calculate. I'm not sure what you can see, but I can only, let me fix my screen there. Um, ah, I'm trying to split my monitor screen so I can see what you see and also see the question at the same time. Okay, calculate the pH of a buffer. Of a buffer made by mixing 75 milliliters of 1.0 molar lactic acid and what does it say? Oh, 25 milliliters of 1.0 molar lactate. I think it says sodium lactate. So for most of these buffer problems, oh my. For most of these buffer problems, let me know if I go off screen. My computer's being slow. We're going to use Henderson-Hasselbalch.
Mhm.
pH equals pKa minus or plus the log of the concentration of the conjugate base over the concentration of the weak acid. And so the first step is to recognize which of these is the acid and which is the base. So lactic acid is HA, and sodium lactate, when it goes into solution,
It's a conjugate base.
yeah, the sodium dissociates, right? So that will give us the A minus. Oops. And the sodium is a spectator ion. And my screen is super slow right now. I know I have, I'm looking for the pKa of lactic acid. It might be easier to search it just on my phone. Or actually, where's my, it's 3 something, but I'm not sure. pKa lactic.
3.86.
Oh, okay, thank you. So pKa is 3.86. So we are supposed to put the concentrations in here of the A minus and the HA, but we don't have to go through all the trouble of calculating those because it's the ratio that matters. And because they have the same stock concentration, and usually this is by design, it makes it easier to figure out how to make a buffer. The ratio of the volumes added is going to be the same as the ratio of the concentrations. And so we would just put in 3.86 plus the log, and the A minus would be 25, and the AHA would be 75. And what I always remind people is look at your relative amounts and figure out whether or not your pH should be above or below the pKa, right?
Yeah. So since you have more acid, it should be.
Yeah, it should be below 3.
Low.
Yeah. So when I put that in, let's see, 25, that's going to be 1/3, the log of that. So plus 3.86. And so I get 3.38 as the pH. So things to remember here is it's all relative to the pKa. If you have more acid than base, the pH will be below the pKa. If you have more base than acid, it'll be above the pKa. And then when you have the pH equal to the pKa, that means that the concentration of A minus, oops, I think I'm off screen. Can you see it? Concentration of A minus is equal to the concentration of HA.
Okay.
Does that all come back?
Yes. Yeah.
Good, good. So, and then the thing, is to recognize that whichever species has more H's is going to be the acid form, and the one with less H's is the conjugate base.
Yeah. And then you just have to make sure that if they weren't the same molarity, you'd have to convert them, right?
Mm-hmm. And in that case, you would use, you'd have to add these volumes. Sometimes people forget to get the total volume, right? You'd calculate the number of moles of lactic acid and then divide by 0.1 liters, because 75 plus 25 is 100 milliliters, and 100 milliliters is equal to 0.1 liters.
0.1 liter.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so peptides, make sure you know the backbone and how to draw. I think.
You're a little off. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Those are the things. Oh, what about purification tables?
I think I'm pretty good with those.
Right, so there's things to look at. That's the total protein. And then that tells you how much, well, of course, that's going to tell you how much protein you have. And then your handle on how much of your target enzyme. That's going to be total activity.
Activity.
Right. So total activity tells you how much of the total enzyme you have. It doesn't tell you how pure it is. It just tells you how much is in there, right? So if your total activity is high, that's good. But if your total protein is high, that might mean that there's lots of other stuff in there. What tells you how pure it is the specific activity. Specific activity is total activity divided by total protein. So in terms of assessing the quality of a purification, right, we want this number to be high, and the lower this number is, the more pure your enzyme is.
Okay.
And I can't remember, I don't think we went over this, but there's fold purification. That's when you take
I
the,
don't know what that is.
okay, so I won't go over that. But that's when you're comparing the specific activity of two steps.
Oh, okay.
Right, so the more a specific activity increases, the better the purification step is.
Okay.
And fold purification is one divided by the other. You know, it's more relevant to divide than it is to subtract when you're comparing the two steps.
Okay.
Just like yields with total protein and
Yeah.
total is very similar.
Okay.
Trying to think, what else do we have? Everything else, I mean, because you can look in your book, those are the things that I think you would have a harder time figuring out. Everything else I think is thinking about the material in a slightly different way. So I wrote down where I thought it was best to look for review. So for buffers, definitely, you know, nothing beyond the homework questions for the buffers in terms
Yeah.
of complexity. Peptides, pretty similar. Purification table, I think what we just went over. I can't remember if there was a homework question on that. We spent a lot of time in class on that though.
I don't remember if it was.
The purification table?
I remember it on the test. But
Yeah.
I don't remember it on the homework.
Yeah, so look back on the test, look back on the slides maybe. Protein folding, enzyme function. Kind of broad themes. I think it's good to know what Km and Vmax are.
Okay, I'll have to look back at those.
Km tells you how tightly the substrate binds the enzyme.
Enzyme, yeah. And Vmax is how fast
Yeah.
that process is.
Yeah, Vmax is related to KCAT. KCAT is more general because Vmax is dependent upon how much enzyme you have.
Mhm.
So you can't compare pots A and B unless they have the exact same amount of enzyme. But KCAT divides Vmax by the amount of enzyme, so it's comparable regardless of how much. You can compare pot A and pot B if they have different amounts of enzymes because they'll have the same KCAT.
Okay.
It's
Are we
called,
going to?
go ahead.
Sorry, you can go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, it's called the turnover number.
Okay. Are we going to need to know about like the shifts in Vmax and K?
Oh, for different inhibitors?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into that level of detail. Inhibition's interesting, but I don't think I'm as interested in classifying them and stuff like that.
Okay. I just remember that from the
Yeah. Yeah, for this one, I would say homework and book. there's just no predicting. I thought for a while it seemed like um, hooking up my extra monitor slowed down Zoom, but maybe it's the camera.
Right. I think it's the camera because as soon as you turn the camera on, it got really.
Okay, so what am I sharing now? Am I sharing the camera or
The
I'm,
slide.
yeah, all right, let me turn it. Well, but the camera was hooked up before. Okay, I'm gonna unplug it because I don't think we need it anymore. And I had to update that software because the camera kept deciding to use the program that runs it kept deciding to use my computer
Mhm.
camera instead of the document camera. And once it decided that, I couldn't figure out how to make it stop.
Undo it.
And it turned out I think it was a bug in the software. They made me, I called the company and they had me download a different software version. And that problem went away, but I think maybe it's slowing the computer down. Okay, well, if you if you have questions between now and then, feel free to email me.
Mhm. I think that should be okay. I just need to review.
Yeah, I feel
Buttons.
like we're in pretty good shape because we just had that exam.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna try to get all that out pretty quickly so that people can look at feedback from that.
Okay.
But but I'm a bit more focused on revisiting some of the stuff from earlier in the semester because I think that was more challenging. And it's good to revisit that stuff. But I gave you pretty much what I'm thinking in terms of that.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely have to go back and review all the stuff from the
How
first time.
many finals do you have?
This is just the last one I have.
Oh, it is? You're
Yeah.
done?
Yep.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks. And then I have this, and then I'm taking summer classes. So in
Oh,
two
you
weeks,
are.
they start again. So
They're telling us that the fall is going to be pretty much online. There might be some labs that are partially in on campus, um, and they're working that out. But it's looking like it's going to be mostly online again.
I was talking to my cousin. He's in high school, and he said they're doing like pretty much all next year. Most of them are doing all online, and some of them are even thinking about going like even further. Like, I was
What do
like,
you mean? What do you mean even further?
because he's a freshman right now, and he said potentially like up through his junior year they might do
Oh,
like all online. And I was like, that seems a bit
extreme.
extreme, but it's because like public schools don't have the room, like they just can't like space out the kids enough, like for
Right.
to like follow all the restrictions and stuff.
Where does he live?
He lives in Fallbrook.
Oh, wow. Huh. Because we haven't heard much from San Diego Unified. It does seem, the more evidence that it's time spent inside sort of doesn't bode well. But I think the social stuff is important in high school.
Definitely. Yeah.
I was wondering maybe if they went to more of a college style schedule where they're not there for all their classes every day. They just come. They could, significantly reduce the interactions by having people
That's
come
true.
for
Yeah.
class once a
I
week.
think well their biggest problem is like overcoming like just the physical like space because like they normally have like public schools like 30 to upwards kids like in a classroom, and when you take that down to where you can only have like 10 max, like that's
Right. Yeah.
a big challenge to overcome, like
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I went on my walk this morning and I'm always like constructing emails to the principal in my head. I really want them to have regularly scheduled Zoom. Like my daughter, if she doesn't have a Zoom, she doesn't get up till noon. I don't think that's good long term. Like
no, definitely not.
I think they need to start school and at 9 at the latest. At the latest. And my friend's daughter's at Bishop's, and they have to get up every day in their uniform.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah. And I actually think that's good. But
yeah, that's probably
and they
good
have
to
to have
keep the
their camera
routine.
on. Yes, the routine is important. Okay, well, I'm gonna sign off now. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, I will.
All right, take care. Stay safe.
Thanks. You too.
All right, thank you. Bye.